Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know I'm here to do. I'm here to rock. Hope you guys had a great Halloween. I know I did. It was wonderful. I did nothing, so I had a great time. I was still under the weather. Got to take my kids down to a super Mexican Halloween downtown.
How was it?
What is that?
I don't even know what that meant. Super Mexican.
It was just me and Mexicans.
Dia de los
That's what
Muertos?
I'm at.
Was it Dia de los Muertos?
No,
something?
that's tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? So this was just somewhere downtown, me and a bunch of Mexicans.
Wait, but how'd you hear about it?
We went trick-or-treating there, right?
Yeah, well, it's like this trick-or-treat line, and then they got a DJ, and it was fun. And then I got pictures. The kids are running
for
around.
kids?
Yeah, it's for kids.
Downtown, interesting. Wow.
Yeah, Union Station got turned into Boo Station.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I want to next year when the kids are a little older, they'll be almost 3, right? Now you can get into Halloween
That's
a little
the first
bit more.
one. Yeah, that's the first
right,
one.
and go around, knock on doors, get to know stuff. You know, my kids now doing numbers and stuff, so we're about to get into Action Jackson time.
What do you mean doing numbers?
They're like, she can say numbers now.
Oh, gotcha.
She can see a number and go, 8.
I thought you meant they were like running numbers in the
Here
neighborhood.
we go.
Einstein. I love it, dude. Joining me as always on the ones and twos. You saw him live at the We Don't Smoke the Same Halloween special. Xavier Guerrero.
What's up? Yeah, thank you everybody who came out. Everybody smoked up with us. It's a fun time. You should come by next time.
I never get invited to We Don't Smoke the Same ever.
We'll give you a CBD joint. So
Okay,
you ain't gotta
I'll come
worry
and hang
about
out. I
it.
won't
See?
smoke, but my not smoke the same will be not smoking at all. That's how I smoke different. And on the ones and two, he was in Atlanta for the big win. Nice, Johnny Wooder.
Yeah. It was.
Well, at least you got to go. I mean, when I went
Very
to
expensive.
the World Series, I was on mushrooms and we lost.
Yeah. It was a good time, dude. The energy in that city right now is unbelievable. And they were having this anime convention like at the hotel right next to the ballpark. Ooh. So you had all these people dressed up in anime costumes, like mixing with Braves fans. It was bizarre.
Dude,
it was
let me
so
just
strange.
tell you something. So I used to have a joke about how like you can add Asian hookers to any movie and it becomes a way better movie.
Well, that was what happened. Yeah.
Right? You add like furries to any situation, it's a much better
It was just a
situation.
bunch of dudes walking around like, dressed like chickens with their head like under their arm, you know, walking around.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Well, if you were an animal in a furry, what would you be? Have we talked about this before?
No, but I don't have a quick answer for you.
I
don't
have
know.
one.
Okay.
Raccoon.
Why?
Because they eat garbage. Like
You eating the ass?
Of course.
Yeah,
You're going to eat the worst
Of
ass.
course.
with
you
my
do.
fucking banker eyes.
Okay.
Oh. Maybe a honey badger? Anyone want to be a honey badger? That'd be my second one.
Okay.
Guys, today's a great episode. We have Mary Beth on. She's going to, listen, it's a very interesting episode because we really get into how these organizations are fronts. And
Animal rights orgs.
well, it's animal rights, but it's like if we kind of take a look at like the Red Cross and the ACLU and how they have these quote unquote mission statements, but they're really just fronts for very powerful people.
Have you ever seen those clothing bins that they have those big yellow things and you put clothes in? I did a story once on those, exposing those things. The yellow ones, I can't remember their names, but there used to be a lot of them in the South. Complete bullshit, like complete scam.
Is that recycling too? Like they follow recycling trucks, they just go to the dump and just drop them out.
Yeah.
Right, so it's a really fun, interesting idea. Mary Beth was a little nervous at first, and then she drops a hammer of the furry gods on us. Okay, if you want to see me live, a lot of great stuff's going on, everybody. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this short. So basically, I've got my second strike on YouTube. If I get another one by January 1st, they're going to take down the YouTube.
Chill Bill.
So I'm probably going to not post there for a very long time. All of Tinfoil Hat is in fact gone. Now we're getting no traction on YouTube, so I'm not missing anything. Instagram has in fact I went from about 6,000-7,000 likes. I'm doing about 100 now. They have boxed me down. They figured out my game, which was just to post the article with
basically
nothing.
Nothing.
So I just post the Washington Post, so they can't say anything about it because it's a literally post. They've just basically boxed me down. It is almost a waste of time to go on.
Tell them where you
Instagram.
post your crazy shit at, though.
So if you go to Ghost of Tripoli on Instagram or Fat Dragon Pro on Twitter, you'll see a link to my Telegram, which is Tinfoil Hat's Only Conspiracies, right? That's where I'm posting everything now. Join me. It's free to join. Click the link, join. And I'm just everything. This guy sends me. That guy sends me. Eddie Bravo sends. I throw it all on there. I have to have somewhere as an outlet to fight back.
You still posting to chat.samtripoli too? What's that?
Yeah, I do chat. I do there. I have to do it more. I mean, I'm basically... Listen, if I could, I would just go on samtripoli.com and just chill out there. But I need to get more, it's hard to reach everybody. Even though the website is murdering it. I'm murdering it. It's a great website.
That's good. Okay.
You got everything. All my content is on samtripoli.com. You can get tickets to my shows. I have a show in Boise. I have a show in Salt Lake next weekend. Salt Lake is almost sold out. There's less than 20 tickets left. So I would grab them now. Boise is moving quick. Not only am I going to be there, but Crash Daddy's Chris Neff is going to be there, and good friend Zane Helberg. Chris Neff's dad passed away. Rest in peace, Mr. Neff. Everyone from the memorial's going great to the show, so it should be interesting. We have T-shirts on there, okay? You want to support the show? Grab a T-shirt. You don't have to go to tinfoilhattT-shirts.com. Now all you do is go to samtripoli.com and click the banner that says tinfoilhattT-shirts.com. You don't have to go to no Chinese sites anymore. Just go to samtripoli.com. Click the link. Takes you right to the T-shirt. Great way to support the show. And then finally, as always, listen, I have a lot of free shows out there. Tinfoil Hat's one of them. We Don't Smoke the Same is free from Xavier Guerrero. Broken Sim, double banger. It was over 3 hours.
Huge double episode.
Double banger. Okay.
Both parts are out right now.
Get it while it's hot, okay?
Yeah.
You go to Broken Sim. I got Zero is out. That is my spiritual podcast. You Know the Unwanted is out. Conspiracy Social Club with Brian Callen, a.k.a. Deep Waters, a.k.a. Highway to the Danger Zone, a.k.a. Touchy Subjects. That is all available for free. And all we ask is you go on there, and Punch Drunk Sports, that when occasionally I go drop, all this free content on whatever you want to talk about, all right there. People are always like, why are you doing so many shows? Because I'm a crazy person. I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So go get that. Now, if you want to support the show, and by support the show, support us, okay, go to rockfin.com. Rockfin.com. All of my bonus content is there, and I'm doing 6 episodes a week, 2 from Zero, which is my spiritual podcast, 2 from Conspiracy Social Club, and 2 from Tinfoil Hat. Doing a lot of AMAs on the Tinfoil Hat, knocking it out. Almost had 200 people watching live, which is great.
You keep bumping that up.
Keep bumping it up. I mean, Rockfin is growing, dude. Rockfin is growing. And you can get We Don't Smoke the Same and every show you could ever want, all for $10. All for $10. Help us help you help us. And anything else, guys? Anything else?
No.
Guys, this one is a banger. It's a banger. We go hard in the paint. Enjoy it. I enjoyed it. It flies by. So enjoy this, man, because all of these animal lovers are shady as shit. Oh, and by the way, Xavier wanted us to say something nice about vegans. Is that what you wanted us to do?
Yeah, We hated a little bit on vegans today, and we have a lot of vegan fans.
I did.
So shout out to you guys. Shout out to vegan friends. You know,
To our vegan friends,
yeah.
we say, calm down. Enjoy the show.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain.
All right, this is going to be a really interesting episode because it's kind of out of the norm that we're going to do. And, you know, I know this is going to just open the floodgates, but this guest hit me up an email and she's like, I would like to talk about this because I don't think anyone talks about it. And anytime you can kind of bring in a new topic that we haven't talked about before, I always find that fun. And I'm really into this topic because I think there's a lot of fraud in the world of charities and advocacy groups and watch groups and watchdog groups. So I'm very excited. She is a winner of many medals in the world of dogs and pageantries and just all around greatness. I'm so excited to have her on. We were talking a little before the show, and we're all ready to rock this. Please welcome to the show, Mary Beth Constante.
Hey guys.
Hi, Mary. How are you? Can I call you Mary or Mary Beth? What would you?
Mary Beth or MB. That's
MB,
fine.
love it.
MB works.
MB, thank you for joining us on the show.
Are you kidding? This is awesome. This is my pleasure. This is an honor.
Well, it's an honor to have you on, and I'm very thankful that you hit us up. You know, I do get help a lot, and I try to get as many people, if it's a very interesting, coherent email, I try to go, okay, where would it be best on the show? And everybody, you know, I try to get as many as I can on. But your email was very interesting to me, you know, because one, I love animals. And so before we get into it, okay, so basically Mary emailed me about how, like, there's a lot of these, like, what we'll call animal rights groups that aren't on the up and up, which I've always found to be very interesting because in the world of charities, like as a comedian, you're always doing charities, and you're always like, where's this money going to? Does it ever lead to anything? Does it ever help anybody? Before we get too much into it, Mary, for those who may not be familiar with the MB, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
That would be everybody. Nobody is familiar with me.
Well, I'm familiar with you, and we love you.
My name is Mary Beth. I'm 43 years old. I'm current resident of Tampa, Florida. And I know it's not anything to brag about, but I am a lifelong resident of Florida. But I've got interested in this topic very unexpectedly through a very synchronistic way. And it just drew me in, and I just had to go just dig down the rabbit hole because it couldn't have affected just me personally, which it did in a very profound and negative way. But I just saw that it just branches out to anything that is related to animals. And so it's so relatable to anybody. So you don't have to be a professional that works with animals like I am. You just be a pet owner. It still applies to you. You don't need to be a big rancher out in Utah. I mean, if you have a goldfish, this still applies to you. It's universal almost, because pet ownership here is a very popular thing, obviously. So
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Guys, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at Super Speciosa, okay? The makers of the finest kratom products in America, aka the Super Leaf that the feds tried to ban. They tried, but guess what? No go, okay? Because America said, not today, not today. They tried to ban because they wanted to make you think that this Super Leaf is bad for you. No. You know what the real truth is that it was big farm, okay? Yes, big pharmaceuticals want you to think that the Super Leaf isn't good for you, okay? If you haven't heard kratom yet, it means the government conspiracy is working, okay? The feds have been working tirelessly to ban this all-natural supplement used to manage pain, anxiety, and relieve stress, okay? Just think about it. Why would they want people having the ability to take one product that has so many benefits when big pharmaceuticals can profit by hooking you on multiple expensive prescription drugs? Wake up, America. Wake up, okay? Plus, depending on the strain and the serving size, kratom gives you all the energy you could ask for, okay? This explains why so many people use it for a pre-workout supplement. XG does it all the time.
They're sold out of my favorite one.
Yeah, okay? this guy can't stop shredding out and getting on that super leaf, dude. When the DEA tried to ban kratom, they failed. They were forced to back off after millions of people, myself included, okay, protest in support of kratom's many, many benefits, okay? Listen, man, don't let the government and big farm spread false lies about the super leaf, okay? Super specioso, OSHA, super speciosa, okay? Say it one more time with me, Johnny. Say it with me. Super speciosa. There we go. Offers the purest, highest quality, and highest strength kratom on the market. So right now, they're offering 20% off if you use the promo code SAM, S-A-M. So try it. So give it a try. When you get a chance, just go to getsuperleaf.com/SAM to get 20% off your entire order. Okay. And if you're not completely satisfied, no problem. Super Speciosa Kratom is backed by a money-back guarantee. Go to getsuperleaf.com/SAM, promo code SAM for 20% off. These products and statements have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or illness. One thing I want to say is, like, even if you don't own pets, and I don't know a lot of people that don't own pets. Johnny, you don't own a pet right now.
Don't want to know those people. Oh, no. Yeah, I live with my girlfriend. She's got 2 cats.
Okay, 2 cats.
But I'm a dog person. I always had dogs growing up.
And Johnny lived in a ranch, so he's all about it.
And you have a dog now?
And I have a dog, yeah.
Yeah, and I have 2 dogs. One is just a bundle of crystal meth.
My dog back home died last year.
Shout out to Roger.
I'm sorry, Johnny.
I'm sorry.
But the reason I think this is a very timely discussion, because we'll get into the Dr. Fauci stuff, but I also want to say that, again, I don't think this is just an animals right thing. I think this is a real discussion of, like, our blatant trust in charities and advocacy groups, and when we don't really go, okay, donate this money, is there going to be a follow-up on it? Like, what has happened? Like, when you do a change.org or a GoFundMe, you'll usually get an email back about, hey, the guy paid his bills, he's out of the hospital, thank you. Or, hey, we got enough signatures, they're going to let us have this hearing, or stuff like that. But a lot of stuff, you just kind of give because, one, you want to help others, which is, abundance. You want to practice abundance in your life. So you want to help people and help others. And 2 is like, you feel guilty that you got really good and you want to kind of let other people live a good life. So you just give it, and then you never kind of think back to what did I just give to? How did I actually help anybody? And a great example of this is the breast cancer awareness in the NFL. Have you ever heard these stories of what goes on with that? So basically, like, and I don't know the exact percentage, so, allegedly, I'll say before it, is that, like, of the money raised in the NFL's, breast cancer awareness, I would have to say, like it's less than, I'm going to be gracious here and say, like, less than 15% of the money actually goes. I actually think it's lower, but I don't want to say a number that could be completely way off, but I think it's, like, way lower than that.
And the rest is what? Just going to salaries of executives and shit like that?
Salaries and executives. And it's just overhead and all that stuff. And, like, you go into, like, the Red Cross and all these other organizations which are, like, the brand of, like, helping others, humanitarian. And, like, none of the money goes to who you donated to. None of it. And I'm sure that's happening here with these animal rights. So that's kind of the angle that really interests me, is like, okay, you're trying to help animals. Like, are you really helping animals, or are you just creating a business for yourself to pay your bills? And like my dad said when I was very young, never hate a person for making $1. But when you present it as a charity event, or a charity that's going to help these people, you would think most of it was going to go to those people. But I'm learning more and more, it is not. And the reason I'm very excited about this show, Mary, is, and we'll get probably into it a little later, but, Dr. Fauci has, been accused of some pretty horrific things. and in particular is drugging dogs, taking out their vocal cords so they can't yelp, and just letting their faces get eaten by these bugs. And PETA's silent. We don't hear one thing from PETA.
Because they are vaccinated. They're all vaccinated.
Okay.
Now they did come out with something earlier this week though. They want to change the phrase, baseball. I don't know if you're familiar with the sport, if you're listening, but where the pitchers warm up, it's called the bullpen.
Oh,
that's not what PETA wants. They want to change it to the arm pen. They want to take the animal part out of it. So
because it's hurting
they
feelings.
Made a statement this week, but it had nothing to do with the beagles being.
It's hurting the bulls' feelings.
The
bulls have traumatic memories around bullfighting, and they don't want to hear about that anymore.
Yeah,
okay.
Except for the bulls who are in bullfighting because they're dead.
So stupid.
It's
so dumb.
And it's just, it's like when this thing with Jesse Ventura came out on Theo Vaughn's podcast, and everybody's going, "What happened to this guy?" It's like, I'm gonna give Jesse Ventura a little bit of leeway because I do think he's getting super old, so he may not have all the faculties there to do it. But he's basically saying that January 6th is a bad thing, and that that you got to get vaccinated, even though he has an episode they did 12 years ago about a woman going, there will be a vaccine mandate, and then it's going to lead to social credit score in China, and that's why I'm leaving. And he's like, oh, my God, amazing stuff.
It's like, do you write Stevie Wonder off because he wrote, I Just Called to Say I Love You? He had all these great records, and then he did that. Do you cut him off? Or you he was a great guy. He got a lot of things right back then. He's getting old.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
But hold on, are you saying that I Just Called to Say I Love
sucks.
You
Yeah.
is a bad song?
Yeah, that's such a cheesy song,
Okay,
dude.
Mary, we got to let you go right now. We have another controversy on the show. No, but Mary.
You know what I mean, though.
Yeah, so Mary, where do you want to begin?
Well, I want to start with defining two very important terms that delineates the difference between these types of organizations, because a lot of people use them synonymously and think they're one and the same, or they use them incorrectly and thinking it's something it's not. So I really wanted to start by pointing out the differences between animal welfare and animal rights, because they are two very different things.
Okay.
So when we're talking about animal welfare is endorsing the responsible use of animals for human needs. So for companionship, or for sport, or for food, or for clothing, or for medical research, because we do need to conduct medical research, but it needs to be done so in the most humane manner. So also for animal welfare, we're talking about the practice of animal husbandry. We're making sure that all of the basic needs of these animals are met. So that, in terms of food and shelter, veterinary care, minimizing stress on the animals. That's what animal welfare is.
I agree with all that stuff, and I think that's not too much to ask for. I just think it's like, what, regardless of where you think animals are in the hierarchy of, importance, they have feelings, and they are living, and people who treat animals like shit tend to treat people like shit. Right? I mean, we see it with serial killers. They hurt animals at a very young age, and they go on to hurt people. And, that's why I'm like, I think dog fighting is should be a lot of time in jail. I'm sorry, man. I think jail should be for stealing, violence, but dog fighting to me is violence. And if I hear another person tell me it's a fucking cultural thing, I'm going to lose my skull. You know what? Racism was a cultural thing.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Right? It's just like animals killing themselves and hurting themselves for your pleasure is not a cultural thing, okay? It's just not. And I'm just overhearing it. And it's just it's another thing done to tell people from the outside your group that they can't tell you what to do. Even though many people, I think, we become better people by people on the outside influencing our behaviors. It's like my friend Scott said, why men in prison are so violent, because there's no women to counter that actions. It's just men. There's not women there to use their female ways, Jedi mind tricks, to teach men a gentler way to go. And that's it with culture, too. If you're dog fighting, you're a scumbag. If you're going on Craigslist and grabbing pets, act like you're going to adopt them, and you're using them as bait dogs, there's a special place in a lower dimension for you. Because dogs want to love you.
Yep. And I also feel like that for like homeless people that use dogs to make money. I've tried to buy a dog off of homeless and they wouldn't let me.
So hold on. So
like this guy was asking for money in this small little dog, and I was like, "How much you want for it? I'll give you $200 for it." He's like, "No."
Oh.
It's his money grab because you feel bad for the dog. So you're like,
that's somebody's bit. Somebody has a bit about that. Like, I feel worse for the dog, the homeless person's dog, than the homeless person.
Because the dog is like, when are we going home?
Yeah, it just wants to go home. Someone's willing to buy it, take it off his hands, because I mean, they don't got to feed it.
Yeah, but sometimes they need those dogs to survive. It's like I was at the Dead concert, and
it's a Norm joke.
Which is, I walked, and I'm walking Pollyanna. There's some nasty dogs in that traveling circus because it can get dangerous, and you need these dogs to protect you, right?
Yeah, it's all right. The Norm joke is, this is the longest walk in the world. You gotta be on here. The dog's just like, when is this over?
Mary, back to you. I will shut up now. So we have welfare, and what is the other one?
Well, I mean, the welfare sounded pretty simple and straightforward and very reasonable.
Right.
Everybody can agree on all of that. But then a lot of people say that they support animal rights, and they think that's what I was just speaking about. And that's not it at all. What animal rights is, it's based on emotion. It's not based on facts or science. And they advocate that animals are equal to humans. That's the huge difference right there.
Now
so that's what I mean by the animals should have rights, just like you and me.
So there's people who think, like, I've always said this. I'm like, California's about 5 years away from dogs voting, like the way they treat. And I'm a huge dog person. You know,
me too. Yeah.
I mean, I to the point where if you saw how I sleep on my bed, I get this much of the bed, and the dogs get that much of the bed.
We got a van, not because I was going to be in a tight spot on the way to Vegas. It was because the dogs needed more space.
Yeah, the dogs need more space.
There are people out there who think owning a pet is slavery. I mean, that's PETA. You know, they don't want
we're
people
gonna get into that.
And
today.
I think that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, we're talking about people who see animals as equals to human beings. Now, I have a weird thing about that. Like, obviously a human life is very important, and an animal life is very important. I mean, if you had to choose, I mean, it's a pretty easy choice, right?
Not to vegans.
Yeah, not the vegans. But for me, it's just also that doesn't mean that animals are disposable, in my humble opinion.
Correct, and that's where welfare comes in.
Yes. Yeah, so
because animal rights is rejecting the use of all animals, regardless of how humane their treatment is. And they also are advocating for the complete and total liberation of all animals, so no ownership, because if they're equal to us, we cannot own them. It's akin to slavery, like they said earlier.
So these are the motherfuckers who are like bussing lobsters out, Red Lobster, right?
Yeah.
Is that what they're doing? They're like going in there, grabbing them, throwing them on the streets.
The more militant factions of these organizations. But I just really wanted to point out, because a lot of people use them interchangeably. You know, it's like, yeah, I think animals should have rights. And then what they're talking about is like, they should have food and shelter and veterinary care. And you're like, that's animal welfare. It's not animal rights. You don't think that you are on the same level as a goat. So that's a completely different thing. And I think people will therefore confuse the different organizations that they support and contribute to, or even advocate. They don't understand those organizations' values or their agendas, because they don't know the difference between welfare and rights. Okay.
And, you know, yeah, I think that's kind of like when it comes to any group, there's always that fringe that's out in cuckoo land that defines the group, right? I mean, it's never the majority that everyone talks about. It is this small group of crazy people, you know? And it's like when you talk about Christians, you start talking about the, you know, Westboro Baptist Church. That's what, oh, they hate the gay. It's like, no, that's just a small group.
And is that even real? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, I would tell you that so much is, I mean, like we're getting into PETA right now. Like, if PETA's real, why aren't they talking about Fauci? Because I mean, dude, it's so elaborate.
they're on the payroll, dude.
Everybody's on the payroll. And they're what they are there to do is to hijack the movement and to make people look a certain way to outsiders, right? It's like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. What they do to the black community, they drove them into this kind of like thing where it's like you couldn't criticize them, you couldn't do anything. All the while, Jesse Jackson basically dragged Martin Luther King to that hotel. Openly admits it. Still is giving speeches. Guys, I want to tell you about our friends at Talkspace. Guys, Talkspace. They're one of the leaders in this new form of therapy, guys. Mental health is super important, and a lot of people are like kind of like scared to get involved with it, you know? And your mental health is very important. And meeting with a therapist to work on your mental health is just as helpful as meeting with a personal trainer to work out on your physical health, okay? And it has a positive impact on all your life and could be life-changing, okay? Talkspace makes it possible to speak with a licensed therapist right from your phone, tablet, or computer, okay? Unlike traditional therapies, you can message your therapist anytime, text, video, voice. It's 100% secure and stigma-free. The way that therapy should be, okay? I know, I get a little weirded out about it at first, but man, I'm telling you, you know what's great about therapists? Is like, you get to talk about you. How many times you started talking to a therapist and then how many times you get to talk to a friend and then it just becomes you're hearing their problems?
Yeah. Oh, they're trying to one-up you?
Yeah, oh, I got it even worse. You're like, I want to hear, therapists are great because you just get to talk, and they have to listen.
And you know they've heard far worse than what you're bringing to
Right. At Talkspace, your privacy is secure, and it's their number one priority. The app puts you in a private room just with you and your therapist. Send messages 24/7 and get replies throughout the day. No need to wait for weekly appointments, okay? Talkspace is encrypted and adds security features that keep your conversations fully protected. No more excuses, okay? Nothing. You can go do it. Get personal. Personal help isn't weird anymore. It's smart, okay? And here's what I want you to do. Join Talkspace today and start moving forward with a single message, okay? Join Talkspace. And this is all you got to do. Just join Talkspace.com and get $100 off your first month when you use the promo code Tinfoil at sign up. That's $100 off at Talkspace.com. Promo code Tinfoil. Get help, guys. So we have rights versus welfare.
Correct.
So let's get into how these groups are different. So an animal rights group versus an animal welfare group.
Okay, so here's the huge difference. If you sit there and you look at the mission statements of animal welfare groups, they're talking about what they promote, what they want. And if you're reading the mission statements of animal rights groups, they're talking about what they want to remove or get rid of. It's a very different context. So like, we'll talk about like animal welfare groups such as like NAIA, they're the National Animal Interest Alliance. These are groups that I personally like. So they're promoting the welfare of animals to strengthen the bond between humans and animals. They want to safeguard the rights of responsible animal owners. So they want to protect your rights to own and work with animals in a humane way. And they want to, they want to create sound public policies and stuff like that. And then another group is the Cavalry group. So this is another animal welfare group, which another group I really, really enjoy. So they're protecting and they're advancing your constitutional and property rights of law-abiding animal ownership. So they're promoting these things. They're protecting these things. This is what they want. And then you look at groups like PETA, and they're like, we want to get rid of animal cruelty. and all animal use and no animal ownership. And you look at groups like the ASPCA, it's the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. They want to get rid of cruelty. They're not talking about what they want to promote. They don't want to, like, we don't want more of this. We want less of that.
It is difference. Abundance versus scarcity.
There you go.
There we go. Now, before we move forward, because I want to stay I want to get back to the subject, but this stuff seems very passionate to you. Like, do you have a history with animals? Is there something that happened?
Yeah, I do. Like 4 years ago, I was looking to get my first dog. I love dogs, and I've always owned dogs when I was younger. My first dog at like 40 or 38, or 39. But I wanted to make sure that I was in a financially, stable, and I was able to provide and take care of this dog. And, I felt like me and my husband were like, he just graduated from school. He got a great job. Everything's kind of stable. I have a regular job. He's got a regular job. Like, all right, let's get a dog. Like, we can do this now. I'm not driving him to school in the mornings and then I go and work 2 jobs and all that crazy stuff. So we lived in an apartment at the time. And so we were doing research on what type of breed would be most suitable for an apartment. And I like bigger dogs. Nothing against smaller dogs. I always grew up with larger dogs. That's what I prefer. And I saw that Greyhounds actually make great apartment dogs.
Really?
Despite the fact that they're large. Yes. They're very quiet. They sleep 18 hours a day. They don't shed a lot. They don't stink. They don't have any like body fat or fur to hold like any oils or dander, so they don't stink. And they're just the very agreeable dogs. They're very calm. I know they're very fast. They are the fastest breed of dog. But despite all that, they just lay around the house all day, pretty much like a cat. I was like, well, this seems to work. So, I mean, they're basically like giant cats. They barely pass as dogs, in all fairness. So,
and once they get off the leash, they're gone. You're like, I'll never see you again.
0 to 45 in 3 seconds.
Damn.
So, yeah.
Wow.
It's explosive, and it never gets old. Every time I see a Greyhound run, it's like, wow, I'm surprised by it to this day, even though I have 3. So, I ended up, I found a Greyhound adoption group in my area, and there were a few, and I reached out, put in an application for a dog, and they wanted, it was so many pages, which, that's fine. They want my information, my husband's information, just, they want to they're vetting the potential adopter, which is perfectly acceptable. And they wanted references though, and it just went on, and we were just playing phone tag and email tag, and it was dragging out. And at the time I worked at a restaurant that was dog friendly. And a woman came in with the Greyhound, and I said, hi, can I say hi to your dog? And she said, yes. And I said, I'm in the middle of adopting a Greyhound from this particular group. And she says, oh, well, I run another Greyhound adoption group. So if you have any questions, once you get your dog, feel free to call or email me. And she gave me her card. So I petted the dog, and I said, thank you. But I had to go because I was working, and it wasn't in my section, but I still had to go say hi to this dog. And so, and like another week or so goes by with this other adoption group, and I'm not getting anywhere, and I'm getting frustrated because this is my first dog. I was like, I waited all this time to adopt a dog, and I just wanted to be as responsible as possible about it. And here I am just getting the runaround. Like, do you want to adopt this dog out or not? And so I ended up emailing her. I was like, look, I don't know if you remember me, but you came into my restaurant like a week ago with the dog, and I'm not getting anywhere with this adoption group. Can I put in an application through your group? And she said, absolutely. And she goes, as a matter of fact, the dog I brought that day is available for adoption. I was there to meet a potential adopter, and she ended up changing her mind. And I said, I'll take that dog. And so I put in an application, and a couple weeks later, she's in my home.
Boom.
So boom, like it doesn't get any more synchronistic than that. So, at first I was so frustrated. I was like, oh man, and then just fell into my lap in the most, synchronistic way. So, I mean, obviously that's fate, right? I mean, how can you possibly argue that? I mean, I can't explain that.
People say you don't pick your dog picks you.
100%. Yes, exactly. I didn't want to force anything. That's why I wasn't really pushing this adoption group. I'm like, okay, well, they're looking out for the best interest of this dog, so I don't want to seem pushy. But anyways, once I got the dog, they check on you the first couple of days, and the dog was fantastic. I was ready for like this, when you bring a new dog home, there's always uncertainties and the dog is
pissing
nervous
all over the place.
Right. I was ready for messes. I was ready for, anything. And she did none of that. I was like, I think I got like a dog with a cheat code or something. Like, this dog is awesome. Like, this is the greatest dog ever. And obviously it's an adoption group. So they do events to fundraise and to, they do like public events so people can meet adoptable dogs and they can educate people about the breed. And the cool thing about this particular group is that they do all types of events. So some adoption groups will just like stand out in front of a pet store, and that's what they do like once a month. They go to this one pet store every month. But this group does like car shows. They do farmers markets. They do tattoo conventions. They do like Renaissance festivals. They do all types of events. So I started to volunteer for them. So I went to what they're called meet and greets. So you set up a booth and you have the dogs out there and people come and say hi to the dogs and donate or ask questions or whatever. So I started to volunteer with them, and they were really cool people and they're really nice. I know it sounds like I'm getting into a cult, right?
No, I love it, dude. I love this.
So like now that I'm talking about, like, oh my God, am I in a cult? Anyway, it just got a little weird there. Anyway, so they're really nice people. They're love bombing me. No, I'm just kidding. All the stuff that you hear about cults. Like, you're doing great, but you meet the other volunteers and you become friends and you do these events like all the time. And it's, oh my gosh, now it sounds like it really does sound like a cult.
Hey, I'm in recovery. Everyone thinks that's a cult. It's not. You're in a cocoon of love, man. It's all good.
Oh my gosh, I know, right? It's like the, I forget the high, like pressure, high commitment group or whatever.
Listen,
like that.
we're
It's not,
social
you're
animals.
A volunteer. Yeah, you're a volunteer. No, you're a volunteer. But it was fun. I mean, it was like a new thing for me. I was like, this is fun. And so obviously with an adoption group, you have the opportunity to foster. And so I'm like, great. Yeah, I have room in my house. At this point, we had moved to a house. I have room. I can definitely take on a foster. Well, I have retired racers. So those come from the dog track. So in order to get a foster, you got to go to the dog track to get the dog. That's where it's coming from. And at that point in time, I had no care or interest or position on greyhound racing, even though it's very prevalent in the state of Florida, or was. We'll get to that. But we have a track in our area. It's Derby Lane. It's like the oldest track in the country. And so in order to go get the dogs, you have to go into the kennels. And in order to get into the kennels, you need a kennel license because it's state regulated and there's security 24/7. So you just can't go and walk into the kennel area, to where the kennel compound. So I went to the track, and then they have some sort of like sheriff's office or law enforcement office of some kind there because there's gambling involved and there's state regulation involved. So you go and you get your background check and all that good stuff, and you apply for a kennel license. And if you pass your background check, you'll get your kennel license, and then you can go back into the kennel. So obviously I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. Now I'm going to go get a dog. So I went with, the lady that runs our adoption group. And, you meet the trainers, you go into the kennels and you see them for yourself. They're not hiding anything. Like, hey, you stand outside and I'll bring you the dog. They're like, yeah, come on in. They don't care. They're used to it. It's routine. The dog's retired. Adoption groups pick them up. That's just how it works. And so you become friends with the trainers and stuff. And since you have the kennel pass or the kennel license, you can go back there pretty much whenever you want. So, like, hey, can you come help me? You want to come hang out, or you want to come help me like pick up dogs after races? Like, yeah, sure. That sounds like fun. And so you start getting involved in the racing aspect of it. And I saw nothing wrong with it. Like, this all looks well and good. Like, the dogs are treated well. The kennels are very clean. Like, this is all regulated. Like, the dogs are happy. The dogs are clean. The dogs are in fantastic shape. They are just like ripped. You know, and it's just
Shredded
like
dogs.
the people, all the people are really nice. I'm like, so I never really got the negative aspect unless I was at a meet and greet where the general public comes up and like, oh my God, thank you for rescuing those poor dogs. I'm just like, what? What are you talking about?
These dogs.
So that's the big thing about Greyhound adoptions. We don't call them rescues because that implies that
they're retirees.
They're retired racers. They're retired athletes. That's all it is. We're not saving them from anything. Like, oh my God, come here, you poor thing. Come with me.
Yeah, you're not getting them out of China in these meat markets.
We'll talk about that.
Oh, snaps.
Oh, I'm going to disappoint you so hard.
No, don't.
Spoiler alert, but you're going to be so disappointed.
Okay.
Anyway, so, I mean, once I got to know some of the trainers and staff there, one of the kennels that we worked with, his son was going out of town because kennels are family owned and operated. So a lot of times you'll have like a husband and wife and multiple generations work in a kennel. And so the one guy, his son was going out of town for a week. He's like, hey, can you come in and help me for a week in the kennel? I was like, I'd love to. That sounds awesome. So for a week, you know, up at 4:30 at the kennel at 6 a.m. and doing all the chores that you do to take care of a racing greyhound kennel. And it was amazing. I'm like, this is the greatest job in the world. Like, I was like waiting tables. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm like, would you rather deal with dogs or people? Like, this is so awesome. And so I just fell in love with this line of work. Like, I'm 43. I've never had like, oh, I know what I want to be when I grow up. Like, I'm going to be a lawyer, or I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a teacher. Like, I never had that inclination. And this was just like, all of a sudden, it's like, and it just struck a chord with me, you know? I was like, oh my God, I love this line of work. You're not like in an office all day, no offense to office workers if that's your thing, but it's like, it's dirty work, it's hard work, you're sweaty, you're covered in dog hair. It's like, but it's good, honest work.
I know a passion project.
It is. It's a labor of love. It is very hard work to take care of. There's usually around 65, 70 dogs in a kennel.
Holy shit.
It's a lot of work. And so I know a lot of people have a lot of beliefs and about how greyhound racing works, and we can talk about that. And I would love to talk about that because that talks about animal rights versus animal welfare. Their lies and propaganda versus what actually happens. But yeah, I just fell in love with it. I ended up picking up work at another kennel. So I was working basically for 7 days a week. I'm like, this is the greatest. I have the greatest job in the world. This is awesome. Like, literally people who own retired racers, like out of state, support racing, and they follow it and stuff like that. And some of them will come down on vacation. And if they know trainers, they'll spend their vacation in the kennel. People take their vacations to do my job. Like, what other job has that?
Dude, that's
you know,
great.
like, oh, you know, Susan and Mike are coming in and they're going to come, you know, stay for a week and help out the kennel. Like, cool, free labor, you know? But they just wanted to get in the kennel with the dogs and work with them because it's so amazing. But they're so enthusiastic. I'm like, you want to go out in the pen and scoop poop? They're like, yeah. I'm like, have at it, you know? Eat your heart out, go nuts, you know? And they would just be out there, just like scooping up poop. You're like, and they're just so happy to be there. I'm like, I'm that way too, you know, in the rain, 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, in the pouring rain, just scooping up poop in this turnout pen. And you look at the kennel next to you and they're doing the exact same thing. And I remember the one, I looked over at him at the kennel next door. And I was like, what a great way to spend a Saturday night, huh? And he's like, yeah, I wouldn't be spending it any other way. I was like, I don't know. We could be at a bar. We could be at a club. But here we are in the pouring rain, scooping up poop, you know, 11:30.
Living the
on
life.
a Saturday night. You know, but I loved it. It was like the greatest thing. So, yeah, that's my background. Very long background. I'm so sorry.
No. Hold on.
So that's my background. So, yeah, I worked with, you know, in racing kennels for 2 of them. So I had firsthand experience of how the racing industry and adoption, because I was on both sides. I was still volunteering for adoption. You know, I'm still doing both. So I had firsthand knowledge and experience of how they both actually work, as opposed to what animal rights.
I'm waiting for the shoe to drop on this story because you're like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm like, and then
it is the greatest
you
thing
saw
ever.
how the
oh my
hot
God,
dogs
it
are
was
made.
the greatest thing ever. I mean, the one dog I had, she was so great. I was like, well, I would like to get a litter mate because she's so cool. So I was, you know, you can look up the litters. You can look up every dog online. There's a database. It's free to the public. You can search it, but it gives you your dog's entire pedigree. And a lot of times these pedigrees go back to like 1780, like 200 plus year pedigrees on these dogs.
Oh my God.
It's incredible.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're very well bred dogs. It's the cream of the crop. Like, they're incredibly amazing dogs. They're the world's greatest canine athletes. These dogs are incredible. So you get their whole history and you start to learn about the different lines. And there's actually a Greyhound Hall of Fame.
What?
You know? There's a Greyhound Hall of Fame, and it is in Abilene, Kansas. So it honors the best racers of the sport throughout, you know, the decades.
Hall of Fames are always in like random cities.
Yeah,
you know that?
right. Why is it in Kansas City?
Only way to get people there.
Kansas.
Yeah.
Probably because that's where the National Greyhound Association is. So that is the governing body of greyhound racing in the United States. So why is the NGA in Kansas, in Abilene, Kansas?
Now,
but there's a lot of Greyhound farms there too. So
do Greyhound racing and Greyhound buses get along, or is there like some weirdness?
The buses move much slower, so no, the buses are too slow.
MB with the jokes, I love it. So there is a shoe that drops, and it's kind of why
I am doing my dream job. This is amazing. Like who gets to say that they love their job, that they look forward to going to work every day, even though the hours are bananas and you know, the conditions are tough, you know, for the people, not the dogs. I would rather be one of the dogs any day of the week, but like we're their servants. Honestly, that's how it really is. Taking care of their every need. You know, they're in there snoozing, and I'm outside in 98-degree weather scooping up poop. Like, which one would you rather be?
What percentage of your job is scooping up poop?
We used to joke that the kennel license that you have is a state license to scoop up poop. That's honestly all it is. Because there's, you know, you have 65 to 70 dogs in a kennel, and they go out like 5 times a day. So you do the math.
It's 300 shits a day.
300
No, I mean, up to 300 shits a day.
That's a lot.
So,
of shit.
There's a little factoid for you.
Fun facts with MB.
That's right.
So
yeah, here's the shoe that drops. So along comes the 2008 midterms here in Florida. And so animal rights groups want nothing more than to get rid of greyhound racing in Florida because we have
what is their argument?
13 tracks.
What is
and
their
that is
argument?
the most tracks. Florida had more tracks than the rest of the country combined. So if they can take down Florida, then it's just going to be a domino effect after that. And they've been trying to get rid of greyhound racing in Florida for a very long time. And they've tried it at many different ways, trying to come in at an animal welfare rights angle where like they talk about the mistreatment of the dogs, thinking they could get at that. But then they decided to go at it from a different angle, which has been working for them, which is to get rid of the gambling aspect of the sport. So they outlaw the wagering of the dogs. You can still race them, but you can no longer wager on them. So that's the angle that they want.
It just makes no sense. It makes no sense. Now, their argument is that the animals get treated horribly, right? Is that their goal?
Yeah. They've come up with some banana stories, and I mean, I was just like, I would see what their claims are. I'm like, that's not at all what happens. And that's what started like waking me up to this whole animal rights, animal welfare thing. I'm like, I thought these organizations cared about animals. Why, if it's so horrible, why do they have to lie? Like, this doesn't add up.
What are some of the lies?
Oh my God, where do I start?
At the beginning.
Oh God. Well, they'd like to cherry pick data and take things out of context. That's a favorite thing. And then they'll steal people's photos and darken them, and they'll put like little, you know, captions on them that are complete and utter bullshit. Oh gosh, there's so many of them.
And is it PETA that did this?
PETA, Grey 2K, which is a quote-unquote greyhound advocacy group, and we can talk about them. The Humane Society, the ASPCA, the Doris Day Foundation, everybody, anybody who's involved with animals. Now, like the animal welfare groups that I spoke about earlier, like the Cavalry Group, NAYA, Protect the Harvest, they all support greyhound racing because they're talking about the welfare of the dogs. Like, you can still race them, just as long as you're taking care of them and meeting all of their needs. What's the harm? But then the animal rights, the other groups, which claim to be animal welfare, some of them like the Humane Society, SPCA, et cetera, they're actually animal rights, and we can talk about that later, and we probably will. But they go at it that they're exploiting these dogs and mistreating these dogs, and therefore it needs to be banned. And so, you know, they have millions of dollars in their coffers, and they just went around the state and basically lied with impunity, you know, because they had millions of dollars to spend on advertising and campaigns and all sorts of things. So let's talk about some of the licenses. They're hysterical. The one that they blatantly took a photo off of a friend's Facebook page. Like one of the dogs she had at her kennel, Husker Magic. This is like a legendary dog at Derby Lane. Everybody knows who this dog is. She was like a stakes race winner. She's a future Hall of Famer. Like, we all know who Husker Magic is. So since she was such a great racer, obviously they want to have a litter with that dog.
Right.
And so they go off to a Greyhound farm to have that litter where the litter is raised. And so when she had her litter, there's a picture taken of it. And the lady that was the dog's former trainer posted it on her Facebook page. She's like, I'm so proud of Magic, and look at her beautiful puppies. And, you know, she's just so happy to see her favorite dog have a beautiful litter of puppies. And she posted it on Facebook. Well, Grey 2K literally just went onto her page and stole the photo. And then they captioned it and then put it on their Facebook page. They said, a Greyhound forced to have her litter in a kennel, in a racing kennel. That's bullshit. The dogs don't have their litters in kennels and racing kennels. They have them on farms.
Yeah, we see that. I mean, like,
yeah, like they know that, but they know that. They absolutely know that. But the unsuspecting public doesn't, and assumes that they have the best interest of the dogs in mind, and just so, oh my God, that's so terrible. So we called them out on it, and they had to take it down. Like, you know they don't have their litters in racing kennels. You know that. You're just blatantly lying.
It is so interesting. It's like,
again, if it's so bad, why do you have to lie about it?
Well, you know, there's a lot. Goes into the psychology of the victim mentality, right? Like, you know, a friend of mine sent me a video.
Oh my gosh,
an
this
article.
is prevalent in animal world.
Hold on one second. Hold 1 second. Somebody sent me an article which says that and this is all love for everybody, but there's actually, like, right now an epidemic of women who are lying about having fatal diseases and terminal diseases to get attention and money. And it's like, it's happening on a level they've never seen before. And and this is just not about women. This article just happened to be about women doing that.
Like, they're starting GoFundMes? Type of shit?
Yeah, for stuff that isn't really happening. I did a charity event one time in, I think it was Ventura. I forget what it was, somewhere between Hollywood and San Diego. I forget the name of the city, but the woman there said she had cancer, and everybody was there to rally around her. It turns out she didn't, and it was completely BS. I know a comic who had a person in their life do that as well. And you know, this isn't about women and that, but it's just like this article mentioned that, and then you get into like how there's been stories about, you know, who was the sommelier, right? Sommelier and his, you know, the Trump racist people put him in a noose and stuff like that.
Oh, Jussie Smollett.
Yeah, Smollett, right? And how, like, turns out like it was two guys he worked with. They were like Haitian dudes who were shredded.
They paid to do it.
And so what is from this? It's like, and we can look at comedy right now when they're trying to cancel people and they're interpreting stuff in the comedy and all that, and they're looking deeper than what's even being said, and the purpose of what? To get somebody's head on a stake. And that's it. There's no other. They don't care about anything other than just trying to take somebody down, put someone's head on a stake.
You see this sometimes with extreme religious groups, this idea that outsiders we don't have to play by the same rules when we're dealing with outsiders. You know, we can lie to them. There are some groups that are like that, and they're comfortable. And I feel like, especially the extreme animal rights advocates, they're okay playing dirty with people who don't believe the same things that they do.
Same thing, punch a Nazi, you know?
Exactly,
the ends justify the means. Yeah, so, you know, if I work in Greyhound racing, I've been called an abuser, scum, I should go shoot myself, and I get death threats all the time. And, you know, just horrible things, you know, just because I work in the Greyhound racing industry. And it's like, okay, weirdo, but
you're an infidel
they
to them.
feel that their behavior is justified because they're doing it for the animals.
And it's what's interesting is that there's this notion, right, that if we got rid of this, everything would go back, I guess, to how it's naturally supposed to be. So a great example is hunting animals, right? This notion that if you didn't hunt, like if we didn't hunt deer, they would be happy. Well, the truth of the matter is like there is a natural order to nature that involves hunting. That if you do not hunt these animals, they will overpopulate and there won't be enough food for the animals. So in the long run, animals end up dying if you don't regulate it. Like if you,
I mean, what about mountain lions here in LA? Since no one kills them because they're the predator, they go down eating everybody's fucking dog around.
Yeah. Well, coyotes are like that, dude.
Because they got no predator. And I'm not saying we got to take them out, but that's what happens. No one takes them out. They keep repopulating. Now they're all over the fucking trash cans, and now they're eating everybody's fucking little Snoopy and whatever the fuck name you call your dog.
I saw a coyote. I was at the Hollywood Bowl just walking down, and I was on the phone with a friend of mine crying about my situation with someone in my life that was just driving. And this literally coyote was, I'm not lying to you, 10 feet away from me. And it walked past me, and we both stared at each other. I'm almost like, if this coyote eats me right now, it might not be a bad out right now.
I've had that happen.
Right? And it's close, like, there's this, like, look of, like...
They don't give a shit, dude.
No, they're big dogs,
They're
dude.
big.
Well, they'd be in trouble at my house because I have 3 Greyhounds, and people use Greyhounds to hunt coyotes.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's big in Texas, yeah.
So you know, it's this kind of where it's like this idealistic thought that the progressives have that doesn't fit reality. Now, we do know that there is some things where there is animal cruelty. We brought up dog fighting and stuff like that. And I think there's reasonable desire to get rid of that. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking, you know, it's like unnecessary harm to animals for your own pleasure, I think goes too far. I think, you know, animals serve a purpose in this realm we live in. And
right, there are issues with animals being used for entertainment. And guess what? Pets are considered entertainment. So a lot of people who say, oh yeah, I hate circuses, or, you know, fuck SeaWorld, you know, and fuck Greyhound racing. And then they support people like PETA or the Humane Society. Well, guess what? They think your pets are also entertainment, and they want to get rid of them. So, and you supporting them, you're also digging your own grave, honestly.
SeaWorld's interesting because you have these killer whales that are meant to roam in these tiny pools. And you're like, that's not what the animal's meant to do. Greyhound racing sounds like that's what those dogs do, right?
It's what they're bred to do. They're naturally inclined to chase the lure. They're
Right?
sighthounds. That's what they've been bred to do for like 1,000 years. They're a very old breed.
I mean, what's
They're
weird is
built to run.
Is horse racing illegal in Florida? Because
We have tracks here. We have horse tracks.
That
here.
makes no sense to me. How one animal can have fun racing and the other one can't
I'll tell you how it makes sense. Horse racing has way more money to defend itself than Greyhound racing.
Well, and when you consider how easily horses break down racing, I mean, they break down, you know, because they're you know, I grew up on a farm. My dad trains horses, and their legs are like toothpicks, and they're extremely vascular. And if they break, there's not much you can do because they have to be really still for a long time for them to heal, you know, because there's not a lot of blood. They're not vascular, so I meant to say there's not a lot of blood flow down there for them to heal. And if they kick or anything like that during that healing process, it's over. So almost always they just put them down if they have unless there's like a real opportunity to stud the horse or something like that, they won't shell out the money it needs to stabilize them, which doesn't even work every time. And with dogs, it doesn't sound like there's any kind of of
There are injuries, but they're treated.
But yeah,
And
but
then
it's not like
also
horses, right? Like if they break, you know, their foot or something, you might as well ride them off forever. You know, you don't.
Yeah, they retire.
Shoot them
they
in the
get
head.
treatment
Yeah.
and they retire.
Right, exactly.
That's the thing, and that's also the other. Not that horse racing is terrible, but the difference is that we can rehome a dog. You know, so it's feasible for people to adopt a retired racer. It's not easy to adopt out a retired racing horse.
Yeah. Although there are places for that, but
adoption is way more, you know, successful and prevalent.
I think comics love adopting horses. I think Whitney has some horses. I think John Caparillo has some horses. A couple people I know have horses. But back to what we're talking about. The reason I want to get into this is because, and this interests me, is like, so we have these animal rights groups. They have this animal rights agenda. Their agenda is to eliminate the relationship between humans and animals. And
Would you like to hear the philosophy that's based on?
Yes.
Okay, so they have this philosophy called human supremacy or speciesism.
It sounds like white supremacy to me.
Yeah.
Correct. That's all it is. So the idea that to view yourself better than other species is, you know, speciesist. So if you view yourself better than another race, then you're a racist. If you view yourself better as other sex, you're sexist. If you view yourself as better as another species, you're a speciesist. You're a human supremacist. That is what it's based off of.
I'm
not joking.
No,
I'm not joking. I wish I was.
I'm with you. I just think PETA likes to protect the cute animals, right? And not the, you know, are they going out there protecting the cobras and all? Maybe they are. I don't know. But
they are against like pest control and stuff like that. So getting rid of like rodents in your house or whatever.
Oh my God.
You know, if the head of
Fuck
PETA.
those beagles in Tunisia, but they got to save those rats in your house.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just know that if there's a rat in the head of PETA's fucking house, you know they're going to get rid of it.
It's like Nancy Pelosi with her mask, getting her hair done. Same thing.
Ingrid Newkirk. And
she sucks.
Yeah, she basically equates like the killing of, what did she said? Oh gosh, it's so horrible. Oh God, you're gonna cringe. You're gonna cringe. So she said 6 million people died in concentration camps, but 6 billion broiler chickens will die this year in slaughterhouses. So they equate to like.
And she got away with that?
They equate like animal ag.
It's ridiculous.
To the Holocaust.
Dude, chickens.
It's the same thing to them.
Chickens are so brainless that there are famous stories of headless chickens living for months.
Yep.
There's this one guy who cut the head off of a chicken, and that tells you like everything but the very base of the brainstem was gone. And this chicken, he fed it with a dropper, and it just walked around and acted like a normal chicken for a long. It became a famous thing. People would come see it and everything. Chickens have almost no brains. There's no chance of them being sentient or anything like that. And they want you to treat them like they're fucking human beings, dude. It's unbelievable.
Rise, chicken, rise.
Guys, you sound like a human supremacist.
Oh,
yeah.
Johnny, have you outed yourself?
No wonder we're off of YouTube.
Speciesist of you.
Rob,
You need to check your privilege. You need to check your human privilege, Johnny.
What do they? I'm curious. Do you know what they say about Native Americans and who want to practice hunting?
Oh boy, gosh, that is a huge contingency, and that's where sometimes like your vegan movement and your animal rights movement gets a little bit of pushback when they start trying to say that anybody can live on a plant-based diet, and then they're like, well, what about indigenous tribes or like, you know, like your Inuit tribes or your Eskimo tribes that basically cannot farm in their climate, and so they depend on basically seal meat to sustain themselves. What about them? You know, you're pushing back on these people's culture, and that's what you were talking about earlier, Sam, about culture. Where like, well, dogfighting is not culture, but I mean, clubbing seals to feed your family, that's part of their culture. I mean, that's the part that we have to have these discussions about, and we need to frame these in a kind of way of where are we talking about animal welfare, or are we talking about rights here? Like, you can still eat the babies or still eat the seals, but you just got to not club them to death, maybe. You know what I mean?
Humanely.
You've seen that, right?
There's no wiggle room.
I try not to watch this video.
Okay, yeah, that video is crazy. Where they're just
so, you know,
let
me ask you, do the animal rights people have problems with animals eating animals? Well, I mean, it's the same thing.
That's what I said. Hey, when you can get a shark to become a vegan, I might consider it.
Yeah, right? You're like, hey, shark, That dolphin has feelings.
I mean,
it just wants to ascend.
You've heard of those people that try to make their cats vegans and it goes blind?
What?
Yeah,
What?
yeah. If you don't give them meat, they go blind. And these vegans don't.
There are vegans because that's a huge it's a huge point of contingency. It's like, well, if you're going to go ahead and follow along the animal rights philosophy of the liberation of all animals, well, some people are like, well, I still think it's okay to own pets, that they're still vegan, but they have to feed their cats, which are obligate carnivores, and cat food doesn't grow on trees, so that has to come from an animal ag industry. So you're indirectly supporting an animal ag industry that you fight against so you could feed your cat. So in order to make all of that make sense, you feed your cat a vegan diet to justify the ownership of that cat. That is bananas.
Yeah, it's Garrett Reynolds has a joke about that. My dog's vegan. No, you just won't feed it meat. Your dog would love to have some meat right now. It would love to do it.
They would cringe at how much meat we went through at the track.
Oh my God! So you got this
freezers full of meat.
You got this, and what kind of meat was it?
Ground beef.
Ground beef.
Well, it depends. Now, if you ask somebody who actually works in the industry, they will tell you that it is ground beef. But if you ask an animal rights person, they will tell you that it's quote unquote 4D meat, which apparently means like the meat was down, like the animal was down, diseased, dead, or decaying. So it's like poor quality or maybe poisonous or, sickly.
Like roadkill
that we
shit.
feed the dogs.
Have you seen the shit that dogs eat? Are you serious? I mean, we have a dog that eats the shit as it comes out of the other dog's ass.
Yeah.
They're fine. They'll be fine if the meat is a little old. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They'll be okay.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, dude. And it's just.
I mean, we spend like $1,000 a week to feed the dogs at the one kennel. So yeah, they're eating pretty fine. But I mean, greyhounds are skinny, so they're like trying to say that we starve them. I'm like, that's a lot of money to spend on starving a dog.
So right now, dog racing is illegal in Florida.
Wagering on greyhound racing is illegal. It's still legal. So that's another thing that they like to, like I said, they like to contort things and take things out of context. So they love to say like greyhound racing is illegal in like 41 states, and it's only illegal in one technically, and that's Idaho, where it is illegal to race any breed of dog for anything of value.
I'm curious how
other state.
Sorry, how'd they get that done in Florida? Florida's conservative, right? Is it the betting angle? Is that how they?
They went through the wagering angle because they also had another amendment proposed for the ballot to allow casinos to open, and then like the casinos here that are run by the tribes obviously did not want that to happen. They wanted to be the only game in the state, so they actively fought against that. But I mean, it's all wagering.
Unbelievable. There's so much to go around, and they're like, no.
So, I mean, basically based off of the information provided by animal rights groups and groups that people assume to be reputable, like the Humane Society and the Doris Day Foundation, which is the same exact thing, they take their word at face value, because they have this reputation of being this huge organization and advocate for animal, the goodness and,
I wouldn't doubt if somewhere along the line there's a Soros connection to just cause chaos.
Probably. I mean, at this point, but it's just like, well, we can talk about that too. I mean, at least to make it a little bit conspiratorial, right? But still no lizard people. I apologize.
No. It is totally conspiratorial because this just gets into what we're talking about and been talking about all the time is like, where do these groups get this fun? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've given money to animal rights groups, because I thought I was doing animal welfare, right? That's what I'm looking for.
Exactly.
You picture
they use that that they just think it's all. They know that the general public is not aware of their agenda and that they assume the best. So
I mean, they got that sad song by what's her face?
I was about to say
Sarah McLachlan.
Sarah McLachlan, like the animals are dying.
I was about to say, when you donate, that's what you're picturing. You're picturing that commercial, not these greyhounds that are fucking, like she says, fed well, taken care of. I picture, whenever I donate, I also, when you donate for like World Hunger, who do you picture?
Yeah, hungry-ass kids.
That's hungry-ass kids, and it's usually not that.
Is that those groups that supposedly are, like especially Grey 2K, because they're Greyhound specific, and then other groups like the Humane Society that funded this legislation, basically they write the legislation too. but they don't have any involvement in the rehoming of retired racers. Greyhounds do not go to shelters. I would understand if like these dogs were just constantly washing up on their shores and they just kept getting these dogs and they're like, oh, what are we going to do? But they don't. They go to private adoption groups where they have a 100% adoption rate. Like no other breed has this kind of support.
That's like defund the cops.
So the Humane Society does nothing for retired racers. Grey 2K does nothing for retired racers. The ASPCA does nothing for retired racers. But, you know, they have their best interests at heart, right? So so basically what they do, they go from state to state that has racing and they get it shut down, and then they leave the industry that they just finished dragging through the mud, let them clean up the mess. Like, I thought we were horrible people, but you're leaving us to rehome all these dogs you basically just displaced. And they get homes, but they don't help afterwards. They're like, yeah, sorry, we just put all of you out of a job, including, you know, 12,000 dogs. Here's $5 million to help rehoming efforts. No. They're just like, deuces, that's your problem now. On to the next state.
Damn.
So I think they're called the Barbie twin. I forget what they were. They were the twins that were in Playboy. They were playmates at the same time. These gorgeous blondes. And I remember many years ago on Melrose, back when Melrose in LA was a hopping part of Los Angeles. You would just go there and just watch the most wonderful freak show go by every Saturday and Sunday. And these twin sisters who were playmates, they were marching against puppy mills. And you know, and I thought, you know, there's a part of me that I really understand that, and I respect that as well. But I'm also like, you know, there's a lot of animals that get put down all the fucking time. Like, there's so much chaos that people do. It's like in the world, like that's the thing you're marching against. Am I wrong on that? I mean,
it's tied together, and so I mean, we might as well talk about that. I'm sure everyone's sick and tired about hearing.
But my point, let me say this is that I just want, in that the reason I bring that up is because, you know, rich, let's face it, white liberals fund projects that make them feel bad. Right? World, you know, their life is so privileged that they look at certain things, they're like, I feel guilty. And they fund it, and without actually thinking, like, what is the ramifications of this action? What was the fallout of this? Again, you know, these dumb fuck celebrities in LA with their defund the cops, and they're like, man, I mean, dude, just think about that, man. Seth Rogen, Patton Oswalt, all these guys are like, match, like bailing out these Antifa people that were going around burning down businesses. And it's like, what is the ramifications of that? You're in a gated community. They burnt down near where our studio is. They literally trash everywhere around here. They're like, match.
All those people matching probably lived in Beverly Hills, and when they went to Beverly Hills, what happened?
100%. What is the real world consequences of what is going on? Of your actions, this fucking guilt you have.
People lose jobs. People like me lose their livelihoods. And that's the sad part about it, is it was up to the voters of the state. So, you know, they were given all the propaganda on the TV, and they see these sad pictures and these bullshit stats and, you know, these little blurbs of information, and, you know, it tugs at their heartstrings. And you're like, you know what? 70% of them like, fuck you, you're out of a job, animal abuser, go fuck yourself. Yeah. And it's like, you don't even know me. You don't know nothing about the industry. You know nothing about adoption. You know nothing about these dogs. And I think if they had to like actually meet these people face to face and say, hey, I'm going to put you out of a job, I don't know if they would do it, but it's faceless. It's anonymous. It's 6 degrees of separation. You just fill in a little bubble, and some person you don't even know loses their job. And especially in the case of Greyhound racing, it's family owned. So not one person's losing their job. The entire family is losing their job. Wow. You know what I mean? So it was really hard. And a lot of these people have been in the industry for decades.
Yeah.
You know, my grandfather was in it. My father wasn't. Now I am, and my son is in it. You know, and it's their passion. It's like it's a legacy.
It's just
and
stupid.
just for the 69% of the voters go, yeah, sorry about your luck. Go find a real job, animal abuser.
Yeah.
That's all we got. We had no sympathy.
I mean, if we take a look at what happened with this COVID, right? The shutting down these businesses, and you had all these rich people like, just stay home. You remember that? They're like, just don't go out. Stay home, as they're collecting checks and collecting checks and collecting checks for the movies that they did. Stay home. And then we saw how many businesses closed. How many businesses closed? We're talking about generational businesses that were going to be handed down from parents to kids. Gone.
Yeah, it doesn't affect their pocketbooks, so, oh well.
I mean, I have an English bulldog, and I got a lot of shit because I didn't adopt. A lot of people were like, really, you bought that? Why didn't you adopt? And my thing was like, I don't know what to say. Like, I felt bad because I could have adopted, but I love my dog.
Go fuck yourself.
And guess what? No. And the reason I say that was because the guy paid for it. His side hustle is that. His family lives off these dogs. Like, yeah, he works, and during the pandemic, he wasn't working, so he gave me a discount. Which is what she said. Like, the pandemic fucked people up, and this guy that breeds dogs made a living, a side hustle off that. And some people
exploitation.
What do you
They're
mean?
breeding those dogs for money.
Oh yeah, some of them say that my dog's all fucked up. It's inbred.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't want to do it. My hand was forced, and Roger was bought. I know, and my normal thing would be, if you're gonna buy one, you gotta go adopt one, and you have puppies together, if that's possible for people. I don't know, but that's my rule. I'm going to, I have 2 dogs right now. One is older, one is younger, and we'll work it out. I'm not really a buy a dog from adopt. I'm more of adopt, but sometimes shit happens, dude. And I didn't want to. My hand was forced, and that's life. And
don't feel guilty. You do not have to feel guilty about buying a dog.
I still want dogs on death row. Like I used to go. You ever go to the back?
Well, this is the part of animal rights where it kind of just bleeds into every aspect of animal ownership, including pets. We're not talking about, bears in circuses or orcas in tanks. We're talking about just your family pet, and so that same mentality gets pushed onto you, like the adopt don't shop movement, which is at one point in time was sensible when there was a much higher population of dogs. And then so the message there was, hey, if you're going to get a dog, go through a shelter or rescue, and don't buy a dog at one of those puppy stores because they come from puppy mills. That seems very reasonable because puppy mill dogs are poorly bred dogs. Mm-hmm. And they were probably, have diseases or genetic disorders because their health and soundness is not taken into effect. They're just bred for money. They don't prove or health test their dogs in any way, shape, or form. They're just there to make money, so they don't care about the quality of the dog. That sounds completely okay with me. Like, yeah, why would I give these assholes money when I could just go get a dog out of the shelter that probably has more or less the same health issues because they are also poorly bred dogs in the shelter. So why would I go spend $8,000 on one when I can go get one for $50?
Right.
So, but like any sort of movement, it gets co-opted.
Yeah.
Right? That never happens, right?
That happens at every single movement out there.
It gets co-opted. So now the adopt don't shop movement has become adopt, never shop under any circumstance. For any reason, you can only get dogs from shelters and rescues, which is completely counterproductive. It's just their goal is to empty the shelters and rescues. But with that mentality, that version of adopt don't shop, the one that we currently have, the all breeders are bad. There's no such thing as a good breeder. You should never breed your dog. With that type of mentality, it literally puts every dog into a shelter and rescue. It doesn't put fewer dogs. It puts every dog. Because if you have to adopt, the dog has to go to the shelter to get adopted. So you're just funneling every dog through a shelter or rescue, and there's no other place to get your dog. So they're monopolizing rescues.
Oh,
you see what I mean there? So are you following my logic?
Yeah.
And then to top it off, I didn't want to neuter him, and the vet almost wanted to arrest me. She's like, "You're gonna breed him more?"
Some animal rightsy type vets out
Yeah,
there,
she almost wanted to pay for it. She's like, "I'll pay for him to get neutered." Because I was like, "No." I was like, "She's like, is this much?" I was like, "Definitely not." Like, I don't need him. I don't need to pay $400 or $500 to neuter my dog. He's fine, and I do want to breed him. She looked at me like, "Oh my God, get out of my vet shops. I don't want to do business with you," because I said I wanted to breed him. And I was like, "You're crazy, lady," because the stud's like $500 every time.
Are you breeding your dog?
I'm gonna breed my dog.
Oh my God, dude.
Can I be an awful person?
Go for it, because I was gonna ask you how much the stud for a Hall of Fame Greyhounder costs, because I've seen these studs go for unbelievable amounts of money.
Yeah, and the dogs go for unbelievable amounts of money too. And we had a dog go at auction a couple years ago for over $100,000. So yeah, they're very well bred, very valuable dogs, and it's amazing because once they go to adoption, you can just get them for like $200, $250, $350.
Oh,
like you're just getting this amazing dog that's has an amazing legacy. Like I have 2 that are litter mates, and just the past 5 generations of their pedigree has 11 Hall of Famers in it. Their dad's in the Hall of Fame.
Whoa.
So
how are you going to be a horrible person to XG? I wanted to hear that.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
so sorry about breeding your bulldog.
Yeah.
And this is I really want to talk about, because the opposite part of so yeah, there's the adopt don't shop movement that it is now, and a lot of people will still they want to cling to it, and then you have your more militant people that have hopped on board and co-opted that movement, and they're driving it to they want to eliminate all breeders, and that has to make 2 assumptions: 1, that all breeders are bad, and 2, that all rescues and shelters are good. Then that's not the case.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
You can't just only adopt, because that creates a moral hazard. Honestly, it's driven up, and I hate to talk in these terms, but I mean, technically dogs are property. So we have to talk in terms of supply and demand. So the adopt don't shop movement has driven the demand for rescues, because people feel more inclined to rescue, save a life, be, altruistic, and, not line the pockets of some backyard breeder or puppy mill. And so the demand to adopt dogs has risen drastically, and that has created the moral hazard of retail rescue. So obviously there's going to be not so honest people that take advantage of this mentality and aren't exactly rescues, but they proclaim to be rescues, and they source their dogs in very nefarious and underhanded, sneaky backdoor ways.
Yeah,
and
like
then just
stealing dogs. You see that with French bulldogs.
Yep.
People just getting their
100%.
dogs jacked from them because they sell for $5
There's a
grand.
lot of pet theft. So if you have a popular breed, like and small breeds are easier to adopt out and they're more popular. So I mean, just look at your just go to the AKC website and look at the top 20 most popular breeds, and those are the ones that are going to get stolen most likely. And it's a lot of small dogs. Your Maltese, your French bulldogs,
Shiba Inus.
stuff like your
There's
corgis.
going to be just a fury of Shiba Inu.
Oh, it's coming,
Shiba
dude.
Inus out there. So I was walking down Hollywood Boulevard with Roger, and this huge dude is like, "Hey, is that a French bulldog?" I go, "No, it's not. He's a crystal meth pug, and he's got major problems." And the guy's like, "Oh," and he walks off. I'm like, "Yeah, dog, you ain't get. I mean, people get robbed at gunpoint for their dogs." And
Absolutely.
I mean, Lady Gaga, the whole incident with Lady
Absolutely.
Gaga, they straight.
Yes, and then that poor dog gets shipped off to another state and resold as a rescue.
Yeah.
And then you get your dog, and they're like, "Oh, I love your French bulldog," and you're like, "Thanks, I rescued her."
You can't
Get that little halo.
That's
You get
the
that
reason.
little halo.
That's the reason I
And
bought
you get,
the English
You
bull.
get the adoration of somebody like, "Oh my God, bless you." And I get that all the time with my Greyhounds. I'm out with them all the time. Like, "Oh, are those rescues?" I'm like, "No, they're just retired."
Yeah. And
they're like, "Oh," and then they're like, "Oh, okay." Because if I let them go on, they'll go, "Oh my God, thank you so much. You're really giving them a better life now. God bless you for taking in these
like,
dogs
no,
and
they had
saving
it
their
great.
lives." I'm like, yeah, they actually don't have it as good as they did
used
at the
to.
track here.
So, you know, and now you see like there's also I did a comedy web series about a group of guys who jacked puppies to basically make money off the rewards.
Wow.
It's dog trafficking. That's a thing. And you would tell that to just an average person, and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because they know about human trafficking, and that's all very well known. But when you start talking about dog trafficking, they're like, come on. And you're like, it's a thing. Because a lot of people do not know about retail rescue at all. They just think all shelter and rescues are just altruistic, honest, or, doing the best they can, doing right by the dogs 100% of the time. And they don't think that there's a lot of dishonest people out there that are basically importing dogs, just buying dogs at auction and reselling them as rescues, stealing dogs, shuffling dogs all around the country, doing really dishonest things like not disclosing bite histories, stuff like that. But, this dog got returned to a rescue for biting someone, so they just shuffle it off to another state and change its name and just adopt it out again.
So,
because they don't want to put the dog down, but they want to save this dog, and it happens all the time.
So someone is stealing dogs like in LA and then waiting for someone to put a reward thing up. You call them and be like hostile, like, I'll give you 100. Nah, I want 1,000. You really want this dog back? And then you send them pictures and little cute videos of like, you want him back?
How many more reasons do you need to leave LA? That is that would be the deal breaker for me.
No. What happens
People
is
stealing your dogs and holding them for ransom in LA. That would be the straw that breaks the camel's back for me. I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I gotta go. I'm out.
They'll wait until there's a flyer out, and they'll go around waiting to see, looking for a dog. $2,000 reward. Please get my dog back. No questions asked. And then, I found your dog, dude. And it's like some shady fuck with a
Will you send around your neighborhood more than once?
Yeah. And I think
I hate to sound like that person, but if your dog's outside, you need to be outside with it. I know that sounds awful, but it's paranoid or delusional or whatever.
For sure. So I want to on this. I want to talk about who the greatest killer of animals is, and that is PETA, right? I mean, obviously,
they said Michael Vick, honestly.
The food preparation business with cattle. Here's the whole thing, dude. I don't know how you feed this many people humanely. I mean, if someone could come up with it and not give me the other meat or whatever it's called,
Beyond Meat,
which is just packed with soy. I mean, like, it's got more estrogen in it than it's like 1,000 times more than a regular hamburger. It's obviously meant to lower men's testosterone, and so we can't do that. And then the meat you're eating right now is just so unhealthy for you. That's why hunting is such a great thing, because these animals have no antibiotics in them.
Well, where did you get that information about the meat being unhealthy? From animal rights groups?
Or from Carl's Jr. commercials where they just
touche. You got me there.
I'm like, that does not look good. And they'll put anything on a burger. They're like, the new Bang Bang cheeseburger.
Like, what is it going to take for you to eat this burger? We'll put 50 pieces of bacon on it.
We got bacon. We got cheese. We got tomato. We got a Huffy bike. We got some Monopoly pieces. You name it. We got this kid from Ecuador. All that on one burger. It's the Bang Bang burger. It's ridiculous. But PETA, nobody ever talks about. PETA is the #1 animal killer out there in terms of Hey,
they used to kill 86% of the animals in the shelters. They got it down to 68% now. All right, cut them some slack.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know LA you can't kill your animals now.
Just LA.
Thank God they've only got one shelter. Thank God they've only got one shelter.
So you're okay with putting down a bunch of animals, which I guess if no one's going to adopt them. But
well, I mean, compared to the other shelters in the county, they're nowhere near a 68% euthanization rate. PETA's like, all the other shelters are like hovering down here. Then there's PETA.
They're just like, gotta go.
Pretty much. Yeah,
Well, their view is
because,
better dead than slave. Is really
better
what.
dead than enslaved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, that's
crazy.
literally what they
Yeah,
believe.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, does that make any sense?
It's
at
almost
all?
like that
Well,
thing where you
the-
touch a
the-
baby bird, and it's supposed to like fuck it up.
Ultimately, the
if it's
dogs
been a
can't
pet.
be abused or exploited if they don't exist.
So right
I
now,
mean, how can you can't argue with that? That's pretty airtight right there.
Imagine they thought about that about slaves like in Libya. Oh, they're better dead than slaves. Like,
oh
what
my
do you?
god!
Do we get a vote in this? The slaves are like, what?
Right? Exactly.
And by the way, it's cheaper to buy a human slave in Libya than one of XG's fucking dogs, which is $500. Can you believe that?
Not
dude?
even one of his dogs. A hump from
A
his dog.
stud. That's just a stud.
Unbelievable, dude.
His dog's a gigolo.
And it's just
It
like,
costs about like $20,000 to like stud, whelp, and raise a greyhound litter,
See-
a racing greyhound litter.
Damn.
here's
Yeah.
what's happened in our society. Being caught lying has no real ramifications anymore. Hypocrisy.
Unfortunately,
is-
and it doesn't undermine anybody's trust. Like you would think, well, why would you lie about that? So I can understand like maybe taking things out of context or cherry picking things, but just blatant lies, you're like, oh, okay, how is this acceptable?
All right, so here are some things that you say are BS, and we're gonna go through them: retail rescues,
Retail
hoarding,
rescue.
fraud,
Well, retail rescue
Scamtuaries.
includes all of those things. Basically, you'll have rescues that are basically just hoarding dogs. They'll just get a new dog, like, hey, can you give me a donation? We just got this poor little puppy off the street. And you're like, oh my God. And they get their donations and then they just go put it in a crate in a warehouse. And then they go find another dog, like, we just found this poor little guy behind a dumpster. Please help us with his vet bills. And they get hundreds of dollars donation. They put that dog in a crate and it sits in a warehouse. And you never see what happens to these dogs. Like,
Oh my
25%
God!
25% of hoarding cases every year are animal rescues.
You know what they
that's
do too on
crazy.
YouTube? Have you ever seen they rescue a pet video? They put those pets in danger and they just rescue them all the time. Like there's this video where they just find these pets that are rescued 1,000 times. This guy that his whole YouTube channel is dedicating to saving animals. How often do you run into animals in danger? He puts them there. Like there's a person.
Dude, that's my National Geographic conspiracy. I think that when you see those animals get eaten, it's because National Geographic puts them in that place to die, just so they could shoot it. It's like National Geographic is literally snuff porn.
Yeah, National Geographic actually came to our track towards the end of the season, and they were going to send a photographer to come basically, do like a photo journal of basically this legacy of racing, and our track being the oldest. It was opened in 1926, and so my boss, the trainer of the kennel I worked at, reached out, and so that a journalist was actually embedded with our kennel the entire day. I was with that photojournalist from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so they had complete and total access to every inch of that track, because and our way of thinking, like mine and my boss, we're like, this is going to be an incredible time capsule, and this is going to live on in Nat Geo for perpetuity, and we'll be a part of that. Like, that's incredible, and so we just rolled out the red carpet for them, and the photographer was super nice, and her assistant were very nice, and they loved the dogs. I mean, we didn't say, hey, don't take any, you can't see this, or hey, don't go in there, We're just like, can we go in? Yeah, go ahead. Can we stand here? Is this okay? Yeah, go ahead. I don't care. They had, she was there for, we have something called morning schooling. So she was there right at 6 a.m. before dawn, right there at morning schooling, right next to me, asking me questions like, oh, what are they doing now? Or what's this? Or, it was amazing. And she was so nice and inquisitive and thoughtful. And, and then she came to the kennel. We did all of our chores, and she's right there. She's watching us like mix up the food. She's watching us sweep the floors. She's watching us scoop up poop. She's getting pictures of, it's just camera, click, 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 all day. She must have taken 8,000 million photos that entire day. And then my boss was doing interviews with the the person writing the article, doing phone interviews, you know, and the photographer sent us like glossies of some of the photos that she took while she was there. So if it was like photos with me in it, she's like, these are photos of you that I took. Here you go. I'm like, oh my God, these are incredible. This is like such a keepsake, you know, this is so, and then I have a group here. Obviously there's a track and there's a bunch of retired racers in this area, and everybody in the industry has retired racers. Like, we hate the dogs so much that we have 4 or 5 of them at home.
Yeah.
You know, everybody in the industry has at least 2 at home. Right. So we all like to meet up at a local dog beach, and we let our dogs run on the beach. So it'll be like, you know, 12, 15, 20 greyhounds running together. And she heard about that group. She's like, oh, can we see that? And so it's, you know, it's on social media. So I just told everybody, like, hey, can everybody meet up at the beach? National Geographic wants to get photos of our beach meetup. And all these people came and met up with all of their retired racers, and the dogs were running through the surf, and it was sunset, and it was beautiful, and it was very touching. I mean, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then the article comes out, and it's just a scathing, just bullshit animal rights talking points, one after one after one, and it's just focusing on all this. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I've been taken advantage of. I feel like such a dope right now. You know, it was so heartbreaking because here I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be a National Geographic. My dogs are going to be a National Geographic.
Yeah, that's how they
prey. And then you read the article
them.
and you're just like, oh my God, this is a disaster. And credit to the photographer. She was really upset about it. She's like, she sent me a text. She's like, I apologize. I had no idea that was how this article was going to be displayed or represented. And I tried to tell him to change this or that because I was there and I saw this. And no, that's just how it went out in print. And then it was a huge black eye.
Johnny knows about.
It was like a punch in the stomach. So yeah, you can probably imagine how I feel about Nat Geo right now. So anything you have to say about them that's horrible, I will not argue with you.
Well, I was watching this video for a second, and it showed all these, like, I don't know, gazelles running one way. They're all running, and the cheetahs are trying to keep up with them. Out of nowhere, from this off the side of the screen, this gazelle just stumbles this way. And I'm like, why is that gazelle running the exact opposite way? And I go, oh, I bet you it wasn't. I bet you it just got thrown out there, and it just got thrown to the cheetah. So they're like, oh, dude, we're tired of filming. Let's just get something going. I mean, how do you always have the exact angle to shoot the thing right perfectly in the middle of the camera?
Do you guys remember the one with this lizard that's getting chased by like 100 snakes, and they have cameras in like 7 different angles? How did you know that you were gonna get that perfect shot?
I mean, I'll tell you what they'll say. They'll say that we record thousands of hours of video and then do exactly what happened to her, cherry pick the worst shit out of it. Or Johnny, in this case, the most. I'm telling you what. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just telling you that's what they'll say. So.
Okay, so my answer to that is you could be in New York City filming hours and hours and hours. What are the odds of you being square on to a mugging?
Or a fight.
Square
or a fight.
Right there. I mean, a fight's one thing, but like a straight up, like a fucking murder or a mugging, maybe?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say the mugging rate's probably a lot lower than the rate of gazelles getting eaten, but I get your point. Yeah.
Is it? I mean, well, gazelles are getting eaten all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But it's just camera angle. It's just so perfect.
No, I'm with you.
Or what do you got?
What do you say they're not completely honest?
Or here's what they'd say. They probably say that they're not releasing it, but they're making them go one way to go another way. Kind of what hunters do. They kind of do that where you kind of make them go where you want to go, so you see that shit.
But then no, they say
needs to look into this.
They say they're not.
To look into this. Has to be some whistleblower, some animal photography, cinematography whistleblower.
I mean, their inner ethic is that they have no interaction whatever with the. I mean, they're supposed to be completely hands off. We don't interfere at all.
What are they, Star Trek?
Exactly. It's like the Prime Directive. Yeah, that's how they're supposed to do their job.
Do you buy that?
No, I don't. No.
Like, I remember there's this one thing. Somehow this animal goes across the water, and they just happen to have a camera perfectly positioned to watch these piranha just fuck it up. And it was perfectly positioned.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying, dude. It's just, it's like,
As a guy that's trying to record you, I can't get you in perfect position.
Right, and it's just like, look at what reality, how much of reality shows do we know is just made up fake storylines? So I just think it's like, good luck on that. And it's just like, it's not just that you're getting the shot. You're perfectly getting the shot.
You follow that Nature is Wild or whatever?
Yeah, I can't watch that
But
shit.
those are never perfect. If you know what I mean. Those are actual.
I can't watch that shit.
You can't, but those are
animals
actual.
getting fucked up. I can't
But
watch
those are actual people that ran into it that send it to so and so and be like, hey, can you post this one? They look more real. They seem more real.
The point of this episode to me is that people like PETA, the SPCA, and all these guys, they're like the ACLU now. They're like the Red Cross. They're like all of these what just seems like fronts that are there to control the narrative. And in reality, they never really do what you expected them to do. I mean, the ACLU has been just 100% exposed for being a tool of the globalists. I mean, like, they're like, mean trans jokes aren't covered by free speech. You're like, they're 100% covered by free speech.
And that's a shame, too, because we
But here's
really
the
need
difference.
them, like, something
I
in that
don't.
role.
Can the ACLU donate to campaigns or to politicians or anything? They can't make donations, can they?
Well, what they can do
Because
is
the Humane Society and PETA and the SPCA can certainly
They
make
lobby.
campaign contributions,
it's,
and they do.
it's just ridiculous. It's
So one is controlled, and the other one is controlling.
yeah, and it's just this whole
Follow
like
the money.
Get somebody's head on a stake, and they don't really care about making anything better, right?
They're like, look, we're making a difference. Like, no, you just displaced 12,000 dogs, and you made it somebody else's problem.
And the Lion King or the Tiger King is a great example of like these are supposed to be pet, fucking pet sanctuaries. They're just killing.
Oh, scam! They're scamtuaries.
Oh, there you go. You mentioned that scamtuaries for sure.
Well, yeah.
dude.
What's the difference between like they'll shit on zoos? They're just exploiting these animals. They charge people admission to come look at them in enclosures. Well, what are scamtuaries? They're charging people to come look at the animals that are in enclosures. What's the difference? One's a sanctuary.
They all look shady as shit. Have you ever seen anybody at a scamtuary that looks like they're like a straight shooter?
Well, one of them was like a little cult thing on the Tiger King. You remember one of them? One of them like had all these girls show up, and you'd get them when they were really young.
Yeah.
And,
Did you guys see the trailer for the new season?
No.
Yeah, dude, it looks like it's basically everybody except the Tiger King is living their best life now. With this fame, they're all just shelling out cash and living like.
Well, the one guy,
magnified.
like his teeth are all cleaned up.
Yeah, it's great. It's gonna be great. Yeah.
So it's
just so you know, that's here in Tampa where I live. I'm not proud of that, but
I love Tampa, by the way.
The BCR Big Cat Rescue was against dog racing. Imagine that. And they are buddies with Grey 2K and the Humane Society. So they were all in on it. They're all together. They're all buddies. They're all the same. I can tell you a ton of former PETA executives that are now in the Humane Society of the United States in executive and directing positions and state directorships. Do you think they just, the current CEO of the Humane Society is Kitty Block. She's a former PETA executive. Do you think she just kind of is like, I'm not going to be that extreme anymore now that I'm at the Humane Society?
Yeah.
No, that's weird. That's kind of weird. No, she has the same PETA mentality. The Humane Society is just PETA light with way more money and way more influence. It's all the same.
It's just so crazy how there's just, I mean, like, I guess you have this idealistic view of something, and in reality, it's just ran by psychopaths who just want to scorch the
Well, it's just
earth.
like any large organization. It's the people at the top. So, I mean, if we're talking about religions or talking about businesses, it's the crazy powerful ones at the top, and then the people below, like the Humane Society has shelters, and certainly those people that are volunteering in the shelters are good people. They're just trying to help. They're using their weekends to go in there and help feed and take care of the dogs and help adoptions. But then you have the directors that are making money. They're the only people that make money at those shelters. Everybody else is a volunteer. See what I mean? So there's nothing against the shelter volunteers. God bless those people.
Okay, final
But
question.
there's the people at the top.
Final question. Are you telling me the meat markets aren't real?
The Chinese meat trade. Oh my God. So this is a huge thing. Like I said, like you're talking about earlier, like the victim mentality.
Yeah.
And like, it's basically the Munchausen syndrome. And basically a lot of people have this Munchausen syndrome by proxy with their rescue dogs, where they seek attention through their dog's either real or fictitious sob story. Because like whenever you see a there's like something in the news about an animal, like say like a dog got hit by a car and it lost a leg, but it got taken to a shelter and it's been taken care of and it'll be up for adoption. How many people will run to adopt that dog?
All of them.
Everybody. Why? What is the mechanism that drives people to do that? Why isn't everybody lying down the block for the shelter? They're not at the shelter for the beagle mix that got dumped in there because it barked too much. There's no line down the block for that dog, and then other dogs, so many people want them. They literally have lotteries. They have lotteries for these dogs because so many people want them. What about the other dogs that have been sitting in there for 2 months? Those dogs don't have lotteries. So it's just like this crazy psychosis that people have. Like, it's not okay to own a dog unless it has a sob story. And that means every dog has to have a sob story in order to own it. That means you have to put every dog through a traumatic experience before it's okay to own it. That makes zero sense. I thought you wanted to help dogs, not traumatize every single solitary one of them.
Now, are these dogs really safe from China?
They are bought from China. So here's the thing about China, and a lot of it's based on ignorance. I don't know how else to put it without sounding mean. But you can't know about everything all the time. That's not very realistic. So again, you take these, they're an animal group. They just want to help animals. Why would you question their motives? But everybody knows, there's that mentality or that understanding that Chinese and Asian people eat dogs. That's like, everybody knows that. No one's like, no, they don't. That never happens. Everyone's like, yeah, that checks out. So, but a lot has changed in recent decades. Like, they're becoming more and more westernized. And so the demand for dog meat is dropping drastically. And the demand for pets is skyrocketing. The pet industry in China right now is booming. It is now a status symbol to own a purebred dog. And so now you just have tons of these breeders just pumping out these dogs. And they're all the most popular breeds. So you'll see lots of golden retrievers, lots of corgis, lots of Frenchies, lots of bulldogs, all sorts of stuff like that. And they're just breeding these dogs like mad. And then they're just selling them at these markets. And then these rescues come in and they literally just buy these dogs. And then they claim them to be a value of $0, so they don't have to pay any sort of like tariffs or anything on these dogs. They just bring in these dogs, and then they'd be like, hey, we just saved all these golden retrievers from the meat market, and all these pugs, all these corgis, all these Frenchies. We just saved them from the Chinese meat market. And everyone's like, oh my God, and let me get one. I'm like, they were never going to eat a pug. No one's going to eat a pug.
Imagine writing a check being like, and we did it. We saved them. Who do I make this
laughing
out?
to the bank. The breeder in China is
Zip.
laughing all the way to the bank. The retail rescue is laughing all the way to the bank. And then the person thinks that they've done a good deed. They've saved this dog from being eaten. And they don't know that, like, especially in like for dogs like bulldogs and Frenchies and stuff like that, they need to be bred through artificial insemination. Yep. And they need to have C-sections. That sounds like a lot of overhead for just producing meat.
Do you think that Xavier's gonna?
They just think they're saving this dog from being eaten, and it's not. It's a pet industry. They're buying from a puppy mill. There's a middleman. So a lot of rescues have basically become middlemen for either domestic or foreign puppy mills. There's a Frenchie rescue here that goes and buys Frenchies at auction for like $1,200 and then readopts them out for $1,800. $1,800 adoption fee. And then you're like, oh my God, I saved my dog from a puppy mill. Look at me. I'm so wonderful.
If Xavier breeds his dog, is he going to have to jerk his dog off?
No, but I mean, Xavier, I don't want to rain on your parade. I just hope that you health test and prove your dog and determine that it is good breeding stock before you decide to do so. That's all I'd like to say, because there is responsible breeding and irresponsible breeding, just as long as just like there's responsible rescues and irresponsible rescues. Just like I said earlier.
I'm going to go into our irresponsible rescue over here.
Dude, I'm gonna pay someone to jerk it off, dude.
Okay.
There's a guy that does it for a certain price, dude. I think he gets off on it, low
This
key.
all sounds legit, really. Where'd you meet this guy?
People will be
Craigslist?
knocking at your door tomorrow.
I wonder if they make, like, for the theatrics, do they make, like, the Chinese dress in, like, weird, like, fucking, some weird Star Wars bad guy outfits as they're trying to save the,
They use
like,
all sorts
Flash
of weird and
Gordon.
stolen and altered stock photos and like photos from like forever ago, and it's like people don't think about the logistics of it. It's like, well, what would be the point of breeding individual different breeds for meat? Like, do they taste different? Like, I hate to sound crass, but I mean, it's like the actual real meat dogs are basically feral. They're bred to produce meat, and they don't care about the dog's temperament, or they're wild animals, basically. And a few of them have been brought over here by shelters and rescues. And they usually get returned or euthanized because they're basically wild dogs. So there are like legit ones, but like especially they'll say like the Korean meat trade, and that's been outlawed since like 2018, I think. So if there's still people still saying that they're getting dogs from the Korean meat trade, that's not a thing anymore. I guess people can still do it like illegally. And I mean, we're getting dogs from Turkey, we're getting dogs from Egypt, we're getting dogs from Puerto Rico, we're getting dogs from all over. These rescues are importing 1 million dogs, 1 million dogs every year. Just think of how many dogs are euthanized in our shelters every year, which is 670,000, versus the 1 million dogs being brought in by rescues every year. So why would you go get a dog out of a shelter, because it peed on the carpet, when you can rescue a dog from the Chinese meat trade? You see how it like appeals to the ego and the savior complex? It's all it's catering to.
Lies upon lies upon psyops upon lies upon
psyops. Yes. See, there's something conspiratorial. We tied it all in.
Xavier
somehow.
whacking his dog.
You saved the day.
Hey, MB, you came, you saw, you dropped the hammer of the gods on us. Thank you so much. If let's say somebody wants to reach out to you, Mary Beth, well, how can they do that?
Oh gosh, I don't have a book or a website or a documentary or anything like that to promote. I'm honestly, this sounds so sad at this point, but I'm just honestly on TikTok. I have a TikTok account, and I think that's a really good vehicle to engage with people and discuss
What's your
these
TikTok?
types of topics. It's at MB Constante, all one word. So MB CONSTANTE. So constant with an E.
Can they still adopt? Can they still adopt a
sorry?
Greyhound from you? Is there any way to adopt a Greyhound? Do you still have connections to that?
Our adoption group has 6 dogs available. Can I plug my adoption group?
Yeah,
Because they're
of
free
course.
to rescue, and no one's making a salary.
You'll get someone.
The group that I volunteer for is called GST's Sun State Greyhound Adoption. And so even though the tracks in Florida are closed, unfortunately, we are still getting dogs from other tracks from West Virginia and Iowa, because we have connections there. So we have some dogs. We just got 6 from Iowa earlier this week. So any support, honestly, would just be, I'd just be so grateful for that. So, I mean, if you don't, that's fine. I'm not trying to guilt anybody, but yeah. So I know I sound like the ASPCC commercial right now, like Sarah McLachlan,
Well,
I'll
here's
start
the
singing
thing.
in the arms of the angels.
Here's the thing. I would love if you send me links in the email so I can include it in the description of the show. It was a wonderful show. Mary Beth, you came, you dropped the hammer of the dog gods on us. We appreciate you. And for someone who hasn't done a lot of these, you were excellent at it. And we thoroughly had a great time. And thank you so much for coming on and talking about
pleasure.
this
Thank you.
very interesting topic. You met our expectations and more. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, I'm going to be in Houston this weekend, but you want to see me, some killer shows, Salt Lake, and Boise, Idaho next weekend. Those tickets are selling fast. Grab them now and have a great week. We love you guys very much.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hack.